I am going to be completely honest with you, but, until today, at least I think it was still, today, I have never been truly unconscious, as well in the type of unconscious where your brain decides enough is enough. I am pulling the plug. Maybe that was comas. Never been in a coma either, so I can't say for sure. But, for me, the first thing I remember after chopping the head off of that fucking bitch, was the smell of hospital, industrial-grade disinfectant. The kind of stuff where you weren't sure if it wouldn't burn like acid if you got it on your skin and the warning labels had warning labels. The next thing I remember was a steady beeping sound that sounded off with every beat of my heart. A heart monitor. I had, mistakenly, tried to open my eyes to take in my surroundings, and instantly regretted it as the light above me seared my eyes and stabbed directly into my brain. A groan escaped my lips as my sense of touch slowly made itself known, although I could have waited on feeling the somewhat itchy blanket on top of me, too much starch on it. I could hear a murmur of vague voices as I attempted to open my eyes again, actually making decent progress with it as I managed to get them open despite the pain from the light. Things were blurry for several moments before I managed to blink myself into focus so that I could properly see the room around me, or more properly the window in front of me. You have slept in a hospital bed. HP and CP restored by 100%. Yup, I was in a hospital room, that's for sure. The large window beside my bed showed me. Konoha. Ah, Uchiha-san, you are awake. A feminine voice announced cheerfully, bringing my attention to the door for the room where a nurse with pastel blue hair and green eyes was standing signaling something to someone in the hallway. Good afternoon, Michiru-sense should be here shortly. She was quite insistent on being your primary physician when they brought you in. Oh. I tried to question how long I was out only to rasp and cough as my dry mouth and throat protested in response. Here, the nurse said gently as she helped me into a sitting position for pouring me a glass of water and helping me drink it. Try again now, dear. How long? I questioned her as my mind and thoughts slowly became more coherent. How long have you been out? The nurse questioned for confirmation, getting a nod from me. A week. You were brought back along with the more severely wounded shinobi from the front lines. You've been in the hospital for about 4 days now. I stared at her for a moment. A week? I was unconscious for a damned week. I'm sure you have questions, but you will have to wait for Michiru-sensei. She'll be able to answer all of them, the nurse assured me. Feeling something strange, down below I chanced a glance down before paling slightly as I saw a tube leading out from between my legs. Ah, a catheter. I am not going to think about it. Well, it's about time you woke up, a familiar voice stated dryly as Sayataicho stepped into the room, out of her jonin uniform and in an outfit that looked like a blend of a smock and a kimono. Strangely enough, her brown hair pulled back into a ponytail and her silver-colored eyes glinting in amusement. Go ahead and continue your round, Sachi-san, I've got it from here. Of course, Michiru-sensei, the nurse replied with a small bow of respect before stepping out of the room. How are you feeling, Yuriko-chan? She questioned me with a raised eyebrow, taking my chart out from the foot of my bed and a pen from somewhere. Ah, confused mostly, I admitted. And, a little uncomfortable with a tube shoved inside of me. Sayataicho snorted at my frankness before shaking her head and making a note. Once I finish my checkup, we can work on getting that out of you and walking a bit, she assured me. What is the last thing you remember? Well, we were assaulting the enemy base on Tensei Bridge. We had successfully gained entry and we were in a pitched battle trying to open the gates. I had ended up fighting a jonin, I think it was? I said, frowning a bit in thought before shaking my head. A lot of it's a blur, but the last thing I remember was cutting that bitch's head off before falling unconscious. Sayataicho nodded in approval as she made several more notes in her clipboard. That's better than what most do when first coming out of a week-long nap, she informed me with a grin, getting a chuckle out of me. Saw the ending to that little spat you had with her, especially the applying your chakra scalpel to a weapon, devastating result. Orochimaru was curious as to what you little improvised jutsu did and performed an autopsy and sent a report along. Your little cut mutilated the woman's lungs. Hell, it would have taken someone on the level of Tsunade-sama to save her. I stared wide-eyed at Sayataicho in response. What? I questioned in surprise. Sayataicho nodded in confirmation. Hokage-sama has classified it as your personal jutsu for the time being, she explained to me, patting my leg. Congrats, not many make their own jutsu before they hit their teen years, she said teasingly. Anyways, your left humerus had been broken in half by the time I had gotten to you, along with severe bruising on a couple of your organs and cracked ribs, she listed. And you managed to pick up a minor infection when you were fighting her as well, along with giving yourself minor chakra exhaustion on top of that. All said and done, you were completely fucked over and lived to tell the tale. I couldn't help but giggle at Taicho's words, getting a grin from the woman. So, how long am I trapped for? I questioned as I looked around the room. 3 days at the shortest, she told me after a moment. You're fully healed, I just want to make sure you're mobile before sending you back out, and you'll be on medical leave for a month after that. She raised a hand to forestall my protest. Hokage's orders, you're also going to be meeting a psychiatrist to go over your 2 near-death experiences to make sure you are still mentally stable. Taicho smiled indulgently as I let out a groan and slumped back into the bed with a pout on my face. My team? I questioned nervously. Alive and well, she assured with a smile. Still on the front lines, they weren't injured during the mop-up operation. So we captured the base then? I asked for confirmation, getting a nod in confirmation. Taicho chuckled as I yawned suddenly, unable to keep my eyes open. Get some sleep, Yuriko-chan, you earned it. Nodding blearily, too tired to argue, I slumped back against my bed and drifted off into a deep slumber. Hospitals are boring as fuck when you are a patient. This is a universal fact accepted and agreed upon by everyone. Hell, an IWA shinobi would even agree with a Konoha shinobi on it. That was why TVs had been first brought into the hospital rooms, to give the patients something to distract themselves from their boredom. Unfortunately for this plan, daytime TV to a shinobi was boring as fuck. Soap operas like The Young and the Ninja were terribly inaccurate and an insult to seduction specialists everywhere. Shinobi Stunts, a civilian show where other civilian pull some stunts shinobi do in their everyday life? Good for a chuckle or two, but still boring. Talk shows? Only put that on in front of a shinobi if you want to die in a horrible fashion. The way they insult the number of lives lost amongst the shinobi to protect their home was an insult of the highest order. Kids shows? Colorful, but dull, predictable and pandering. Fuck that noise. Thankfully I managed to find my little slice of television heaven in 3 places. Honest to God anime in the vein of One Piece and My Hero Academia, the news, and a channel dedicated to ninja, as in you actually needed to channel chakra into the remote in order to get the channel to show up. Don't ask me how it works, but thank Kami Taicho showed me how to access it. It generally ran shows that could be kinda compared to cooking shows in a way, only instead of cooking meals and cookies, we were creating deadly ninjutsu and insanity-enduring illusions. Granted, a lot of it was theory talk, but hey, it would keep the attention of shinobi and it was keeping me busy as I took down notes. I looked up as the door to my private room opened, thank you clan privileges, and quickly shut the television off and sat up at attention as best as I could as the goddamn Hokage strode into the room. Take your yondaime, take your nidaime and take your goddamn shodai and get them the fuck out of my way. To me, Hiruzen Sarutobi was the fucking goddamn golden standard of shinobi. He had no special clan jutsu or techniques, no unique elemental manipulation, no overpowered special transformation. Just summoning, basic ninjutsu and his own mind, and the man kicked everyone's ass. Hokage-sama. I greeted in surprise as he entered, smiling at me. He didn't look quite as old as he had in the anime, with less wrinkles and still had some color in his hair. You may relax, Yuriko-chan, he assured me, waving me down. Don't worry about standing at attention when you are a patient in the hospital. Thank you Hokage-sama, I replied. Yes, I was blushing. This was Hiruzen motherfucking Sarutobi bitches, you'd be blushing too. He chuckled a bit as he looked me over, glancing down at the notes with a knowing smile on his face, one that twitched further as he caught sight of the doodles I had made in the margins. Hey, I'm 7, thank you very much. It's good to see you are recovering well, he told me kindly, causing my cheeks to heat up further. I've been going over the reports on your progress and your performance at Tensei Bridge. I felt my entire body stiffen as I raised my head to look at him in shock. Yes, your progress is rather remarkable, I must say, he continued, nodding to himself as he grinned. Which is why I am going to be promoting you to Chunin once you are cleared for duty. At this point, I was pretty damn certain that my jaw was through the crust of the earth at this point as I stared at the Hokage in shock. Promote me? I managed to gasp out in question. Indeed, he confirmed with a chuckle. Saya-san was the one who recommended it, and it was supported by both Goryo-san and Orochimaru-kun. I swallowed tightly at the reminder of Orochimaru. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't say anything about his actions, I had no proof and it would cast more suspicion on me if I did. And sensei, my team, what will happen with them? I questioned. You will remain under Hisai-san's command for the remainder of the war, and from there you will continue to remain a team, although you will occasionally be pulled to participate in missions on an as-needed basis, he explained to me. It won't be made official until you are cleared for duty, but the paperwork is already finished and a flak jacket is being prepared for your size, of course it is up to you to wear it or not. I nodded dumbly in response, acknowledging that I heard him. Thank you, Hokage-sama, I said finally after somewhat getting over my shock. Thank you for your service, Chunin Uchiha, he replied with a smirk before he excused himself, leaving me alone in the room. Well, damn, I said aloud as I fully realized what just happened. Maybe it was because of my shock, but at that moment, I remembered something. Where was my box declaring the completed mission? It was at that time that my attention was brought to a little blinking light in the corner of my vision. It looked like a transparent scroll, and as soon as I focused my attention onto it, a new pop-up appeared. We have made a small update to your interface after noticing several small potentially dangerous errors for our users. Now, instead of a pop-up potentially blocking your view of someone trying to stab you, we have delegated all pop-ups notifications to the scroll that was blinking. When you focus your full attention onto the scroll, it will bring up a list of notifications to peruse at your pleasure. Regards, Management. Sure enough, there was a list of notifications at least 3 pages long. Most of it was the notifications of those I killed and the loot I acquired from them, something worth selling or experimenting with, I suppose. A quick tally showed me that I ended up acquiring 12,498 EXP and 59,600 Ryo from the 10 Chunin and 8 Samurai I had defeated. Next up was the completion award for the quest. Primary quest completed. Battle for Tensei Bridge objective: capture the Iwagakure base on the opposite side of the bridge for Konohagakure. Reward 18,750 EXP, 20,000 Ryo, 5,000 reputation with Konohagakure and allied nations. Field promotion to Chunin bonus objective: captured the base with less than 40% losses for Konohagakure and allies. Completed personally healed 250 soldiers. Completed your team survives. Completed rewards 12,500 EXP per objective completed, 10,000 Ryo per objective completed. Secret objective: found an alternative way to cross the gorge. Reward 12,500 EXP, 8,000 Ryo. 68,750 EXP acquired from the mission alone. Wow, that would explain the 8 level up alerts. Jesus, mother of all the kami. It was tempting to open up the page and start doling out my 40 stat points, but I remained focused on sorting through the various alerts. One in particular caught my interest. People have begun to notice your abilities and have called you a genius. You have acquired the Genius perk. I blinked. Fucking what? Who in the 9 unholy hells would call me a genius? I mean, seriously, I've been flying by the seat of my pants this entire time. Letting out a groan, I hit the little icon on the box to explain the perk. Genius. People have heard of your abilities and praise them for it. You stand near the top of the food chain with your skills. Don't let it go to your head though. Plus 1 INT per level, applied retroactively, and you have a plus 25% EXP gain for all skills. Alright, I won't complain about that kind of bonus then, I guess. I let out a groan as I slumped back into the bed. Yeah. I think at this point Orochimaru at the very least would be keeping an eye on me from here on out. How troublesome. Oh hey, Shikamaru's phrase. Shaking my head, I put those thoughts out of my mind for the moment and opened my status menu. Name, Yuriko level, 24 EXP, 1, 577/13, 000 age, 7 gender, female title, Chunin, plus 25% to all reputation gains, stats HP, 900 CP, 2914 STR, 30, 33, INT, 67 DX, 34, 37, V8, 30 WS, 42 LUK, 15 Ryo, 232,252 stat points minus 40. Damn, my new perk jumped my INT up big time. Alright then, 10 points to my WIS and 20 to my DX, and the last 10 split between STR and VIT. Name, Yuriko level, 24 EXP, 1, 577/13, 000 age, 7 gender, female title, Chunin, plus 25% to all reputation gains, stats HP, 1325 CP, 3582 STR, 35, 38, INT, 67 DX, 54, 59, VIT, 35 WS, 52 LUK, 15 Rio, 232,252. Well, those look like Chunin stats, I suppose. Shaking my head I let out a sigh. I'm a Chunin now at 7 years old. I honestly had no idea what to feel about that. It's a wartime promotion, so when the war was over it would come under review, but since Hokage-sama was the one to give it to me, it would likely stick. Fuck it, it wasn't like I was going to be able to remain unseen forever, at least this way it would be a bit harder for him to try and abduct me because of the fact that I had people's attention for the time being. So, I should take the time afforded to me by my medical leave to train up and start grinding out bonus stat points. I wonder, were there anything like dungeons for me to use as a training ground? Battle mobs for more experience and possibly loot? Speaking of loot. Inventory, I vocalized, narrowing my eyes as I sorted through the assorted gear and items that I had acquired before coming across a specific pair of items. Women's Crimson Chakra Jacket, a sleeveless jacket for women. It has seals sewn into it that increases the wearer's chakra control and allows the item to physically adjust itself to the wearer. Minus 25% to chakra costs. Durability 100/100. Alright, now that is pretty damn cool. Alright, I'll take a look at it later. Now, the second item. High quality kunoichi sandals. Heeled sandals used by kunoichi. These particular ones have small seals that support the user's elemental chakra control and allows the item to physically adjust itself to the wearer. Plus 15% effectiveness to any of the nature chakra control skills. Durability 100/100. Heeled sandals. But the effect, god damn it, why was I reborn a girl? Well, no use crying about it now. I am one, and there would be way too many questions if I tried to get a surgery to change my gender, if there even was such a thing in this world. I looked around the hospital room for a minute before letting out a sigh and turning the TV back on, grinning as one of the local anime, Tales of Chakra, started up. It was actually one of the interesting ones. Freedom. I cheered happily as I signed the last of the discharge papers, getting a chuckle from Sayataicho as I slapped the pen down, clad in a simple pair of shorts and t-shirt. It's not that bad in here, is it? She questioned teasingly, her grin widening as I turned to glare at her. Yes, I replied. The food sucks, most daytime TV sucks, the books here suck and you suck for making me stay here for 72 hours. I was being childish and I didn't care. I physically am a child, damn it. Sayataicho took it in good stride as she ruffled my hair, much to my vocal protest, before walking with me to the doors. I'll be redeploying in a week to Kikyo Pass, she informed. Mizu seems to be making a push for it. I nodded, showing my understanding. Be safe, stupid choice of words, but... I didn't know what else to say. Sayataicho was older and more experienced than me, but all the same. I wanted her to be safe. No worries, Squirt, I'll be around to terrorize you when you end up in the hospital again, she assured, patting me on the back. I rolled my eyes at her before impulsively hugging the older woman and headed out the door, briefly spotting a somewhat stupefied look on her face as I left the hospital. Taking in a breath of fresh air, I focused myself on my next task, heading home. Walking through the village was an interesting experience. While normally most would recognize the clan symbol on my clothing, some of the shinobi recognized my face, one of them actually stopping me to thank me for saving his life during the battle in the field at Tensei Bridge. It was strange, being thanked for it. I only vaguely remember the man from the blur that was the battle that I spent the majority of healing, popping soldier pills to restore chakra, and healing again. It was a relief when I was inside of the Uchiha compound, the guards greeting me cheerfully as I entered, making my way home. I came to a pause as I reached the front door. It has felt like ages since I've been here, and I could tell, no one has been here since I had left to enter the front lines. Blinking back the few tears that had threatened to well up, I pushed my way in, calling out a greeting to the empty house as I took off my sandals and entered the house proper. Once I was certain I was alone, I opened up my inventory screen and pulled out the two items that had caught my interest. Both were a deep red in color with a bit of a collar that fell a few inches short of my chin. The jacket itself was a short one, came down to just below my ribs and seemed to be designed to be left open considering I wasn't able to close it around my own flat chest. I am going to be completely honest with you, but, until today, at least I think it was still, today, I have never been truly unconscious, as well in the type of unconscious where your brain decides enough is enough. I am pulling the plug. Maybe that was comas. Never been in a coma either, so I can't say for sure. But, For me, the first thing I remember after chopping the head off of that fucking bitch, was the smell of hospital, industrial-grade disinfectant. The kind of stuff where you weren't sure if it wouldn't burn like acid if you got it on your skin and the warning labels had warning labels. The next thing I remember was a steady beeping sound that sounded off with every beat of my heart. A heart monitor. I had, mistakenly, tried to open my eyes to take in my surroundings, and instantly regretted it as the light above me seared my eyes and stabbed directly into my brain. A groan escaped my lips as my sense of touch slowly made itself known, although I could have waited on feeling the somewhat itchy blanket on top of me, too much starch on it. I could hear a murmur of vague voices as I attempted to open my eyes again, actually making decent progress with it as I managed to get them open despite the pain from the light. Things were blurry for several moments before I managed to blink myself into focus so that I could properly see the room around me, or more properly the window in front of me. You have slept in a hospital bed. HP and CP restored by 100%. Yup, I was in a hospital room, that's for sure. The large window beside my bed showed me. Konoha. Ah, Uchiha-san, you are awake. A feminine voice announced cheerfully, bringing my attention to the door for the room where a nurse with pastel blue hair and green eyes was standing signaling something to someone in the hallway. Good afternoon, Michiru-sense should be here shortly. She was quite insistent on being your primary physician when they brought you in. Oh. I tried to question how long I was out only to rasp and cough as my dry mouth and throat protested in response. Here, the nurse said gently as she helped me into a sitting position for pouring me a glass of water and helping me drink it. Try again now, dear. How long? I questioned her as my mind and thoughts slowly became more coherent. How long have you been out? The nurse questioned for confirmation, getting a nod from me. A week. You were brought back along with the more severely wounded shinobi from the front lines. You've been in the hospital for about 4 days now. I stared at her for a moment. A week? I was unconscious for a damned week. I'm sure you have questions, but you will have to wait for Michiru-sensei. She'll be able to answer all of them, the nurse assured me. Feeling something strange, down below I chanced a glance down before paling slightly as I saw a tube leading out from between my legs. Ah, a catheter. I am not going to think about it. Well, it's about time you woke up, a familiar voice stated dryly as Sayataicho stepped into the room, out of her jonin uniform and in an outfit that looked like a blend of a smock and a kimono. Strangely enough, her brown hair pulled back into a ponytail and her silver-colored eyes glinting in amusement. Go ahead and continue your round, Sachi-san, I've got it from here. Of course, Michiru-sensei, the nurse replied with a small bow of respect before stepping out of the room. How are you feeling, Yuriko-chan? She questioned me with a raised eyebrow, taking my chart out from the foot of my bed and a pen from somewhere. Ah, confused mostly, I admitted. And, a little uncomfortable with a tube shoved inside of me. Sayataicho snorted at my frankness before shaking her head and making a note. Once I finish my checkup, we can work on getting that out of you and walking a bit, she assured me. What is the last thing you remember? Well, we were assaulting the enemy base on Tensei Bridge. We had successfully gained entry and we were in a pitched battle trying to open the gates. I had ended up fighting a jonin, I think it was? I said, frowning a bit in thought before shaking my head. A lot of it's a blur, but the last thing I remember was cutting that bitch's head off before falling unconscious. Sayataicho nodded in approval as she made several more notes in her clipboard. That's better than what most do when first coming out of a week-long nap, she informed me with a grin, getting a chuckle out of me. Saw the ending to that little spat you had with her, especially the applying your chakra scalpel to a weapon, devastating result. Orochimaru was curious as to what you little improvised jutsu did and performed an autopsy and sent a report along. Your little cut mutilated the woman's lungs. Hell, it would have taken someone on the level of Tsunade-sama to save her. I stared wide-eyed at Sayataicho in response. What? I questioned in surprise. Sayataicho nodded in confirmation. Hokage-sama has classified it as your personal jutsu for the time being, she explained to me, patting my leg. Congrats, not many make their own jutsu before they hit their teen years, she said teasingly. Anyways, your left humerus had been broken in half by the time I had gotten to you, along with severe bruising on a couple of your organs and cracked ribs, she listed. And you managed to pick up a minor infection when you were fighting her as well, along with giving yourself minor chakra exhaustion on top of that. All said and done, you were completely fucked over and lived to tell the tale. I couldn't help but giggle at Taicho's words, getting a grin from the woman. So, How long am I trapped for? I questioned as I looked around the room. 3 days at the shortest, she told me after a moment. You're fully healed, I just want to make sure you're mobile before sending you back out, and you'll be on medical leave for a month after that. She raised a hand to forestall my protest. Hokage's orders, you're also going to be meeting a psychiatrist to go over your 2 near-death experiences to make sure you are still mentally stable. Taicho smiled indulgently as I let out a groan and slumped back into the bed with a pout on my face. My team? I questioned nervously. Alive and well, she assured with a smile. Still on the front lines, they weren't injured during the mop-up operation. So we captured the base then? I asked for confirmation, getting a nod in confirmation. Taicho chuckled as I yawned suddenly, unable to keep my eyes open. Get some sleep, Yuriko-chan, you earned it. Nodding blearily, too tired to argue, I slumped back against my bed and drifted off into a deep slumber. Huh, good thing I didn't come here earlier hoping to super grind myself. Wouldn't have been able to get in anyways. Shaking my head, I turned away for the time being. I wasn't planning to go in today. First off, I just got out of the hospital, so I needed to make sure my skills were up to snuff. Second, I had an appointment with a psychiatrist in an hour. Won't that be fun? The Yamanaka clan had few major jobs in Konoha. First, they were our primary interrogators, hard to lie to someone who is literally in your head. Second, there are gardeners, doesn't seem so impressive, until you take into account that said gardens carry some of the most poisonous and dangerous plants within the elemental nations. Third, they were the village's primary source of psychiatrists to run psyche evals on their shinobi population. It was one such Yamanaka that I was meeting within a modest office that had only a single window, and several dozen types of silencing seals engraved onto the walls. Hey, the information we have could be connected to psychosis, thank you very much. Welcome, Yuko-chan, my assigned psychiatrist. One Fuyuko Yamanaka greeted me cheerfully, her pupilless blue eyes warm and inviting as she kept her pale blonde hair in a tight bun. Please, take a seat and get comfortable. Would you like something to drink? Ah, green tea if you have it, I replied after sitting down on the normal couch across from Fuyuko-sensei. Thank you. The woman quirked her lips at me as she moved to the small kitchenette that already had a pot of hot water boiling. Bringing it over, she quickly prepared the tea for the two of us and set a full cup before me. Now, this is just a basic psychological evaluation to ensure your mental stability for continued service as a chunin. Congratulations on that, by the way, she told me, making my face heat up as I ducked my head in response. It's still kinda surprising, I admitted after several moments. I don't even know if I'm ready to be a chunin, to be honest. That is absolutely normal, Fuyuko-sensei assured with a calming smile as I looked up. Not many people are completely sure they are ready for such a promotion in situations like this. Is that going to stop you from living up to that promotion? Of course not. I shouted before freezing and blushing at the unintentional shout. I mean, no, I will be doing everything I can to live up to the faith placed in me with this promotion. Fuyuko-sensei chuckled a bit in amusement as she leaned back into her chair. As I understand it, you had some close encounters during your most recent mission. Why don't you tell me about those? She requested with a gentle and patient smile. Taking a deep breath, I braced myself for a long session. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.